chili bum bum pee. Chili bum bum, chili bum bum. Wee wee, that was all she said when she winked at me. Chili bum bum pee. Cherry, chili bum bum bum. Chili bum bum bum, chili bum bum pee. Cherry, ooh la 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 la. I was up a tree when she said to me, chili bum bum pee. La la, ha ha, ha ha. Don't you go too far with your ooh la la. Ha ha, ha ha. Down the alley, boo, with your zest for you and your old man too. Cherry, cherry, wee wee, chili bum bum bum, chili bum bum, chili bum bee. Ooh gee, ooh la 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 la, said a sweet babby, chili bum bum bee.
There we go, Ben Sylvan and the orchestra from the mid-1920s, Chili Pom Pom. I remember getting this record. I was a young teenager, I think it might have been on a school camp. Yeah, all the kids would go to the lolly shop and I'd go to the op shop or the antique shop and I'd come back with a part of 78s on my knee. I think that's one of those. It goes way back. I seem to recall that from my young teenage years, that record. So it has re-emerged. It was literally a random reach on the shelf. So there we go. Test missions on 160 metres and 2 metres as well. I still haven't tested all systems. I think I've got the stream up and running. And this needed a little bit of gentle persuasion. We keep a hammer here in the booth for such occasions. That's the way we get things to work here. A gentle tap and sometimes a not so gentle tap. Anyhow, well, just a reminder that at 12:30 we will open up Zoom and I'm looking forward to having a chat with Frank. So that should all work out okay, hopefully. I'll have to patch in there's a lot I haven't done. But it's okay. I've got an hour or a little bit less to settle into things. All right. Now, I am pleased with this new turntable system because it means I can cue records up comprehensively. And if you didn't hear during the week, I did test this out quite a bit during the week. And it involved recalibration and cleaning idler wheels and all sorts of things to try and get a reasonably good fast start scenario. But above all else, it's the new switching arrangement. So I can just push a button on the desk and the turntable will start. That is the latest development here in the booth. So we've got something on turntable 2 at the moment. And another reach on the shelf pulled out the Weimar Republic record. This is the celebrated Mousy with Oscar Denny's and Liza Waldmüller. And for me, this has very special associations because as a 10-year-old, when I first went into 3CR in Cromwell Street, I was only 10. My father brought me in and I was sitting in on Ralph's program, and the first record he put on was this. It made a huge impression, and things were never the same afterwards. vk3sl.
Morgens bist du immer schüchtern, Mosi, la da da. Abends bist du nicht so nüchtern, Mosi, da da da.
Wenn du so den kleinen Spitzer tut manches, was ich gar nicht mag, zum Beispiel.
Mosi, süß warst du heute Nacht, nach dem Souper, im Separé. Mosi, was haben wir gemacht? Wenn ich dran denk, dann muss ich lachen.
Du wolltest immer so zum Spaß. Na ja, du weißt schon was. Komm, ich sag dir
Mosi, süß warst du heute Nacht, bis früh 8 haben wir gelacht. Morgens bei der Schokolade, Mosi, da da da, sag immer, oh wie schade, Mosi, da da da.
Sag die schöne Nacht vorübergeht, weil du dir in Finster viel lieber bist.
Zum Beispiel, Mosi, süß warst du heute Nacht, nach dem Souper, im Separé. Mosi, was haben wir gemacht? Wenn ich dran denk, dann muss ich lachen.
Du wolltest immer.
Sie wollte.
Ach nein, na ja, du weißt schon was. Komm, ich
sag dir's ins Ohr. Mosi, süß warst du heute, bis früh 8 haben wir gelacht. Komm, ich sag dir's ins Ohr. Mosi, sie war heute Nacht, bis früh 8 haben wir gelacht.
I remember that day, or that evening. No, it was a Saturday afternoon. Steam radio it was. And hearing that track for the first time and being a 10-year-old and thinking, oh, wow, they are really enjoying themselves. But what's this strange experience coming out of a shellac disc? I knew about shellac discs, but it was a sense of occasion. And it was seminal. Oh, golly, there we go. I'm still in that dream state, I'm afraid. I haven't woken up. And if you're listening on the stream, you didn't hear what happened. We had a bit of a party vibe tonight. It was William's 12th birthday. It was Kate's yesterday. And I got a big enough family for us to sort of get some momentum in the party scene. Although we can't have anyone else here, we sort of create our own sort of experience in a way. So, yes, lots of happenings, family games and sitting around the fire, and then they watched a movie and I went and had a little snooze and then woke up and just before the mission started. But, yeah, it's been good. It's nice to have a few distractions. Okay, well, I've queued up another record. This is one I discovered during the week. It's from the film Wonderbar, which came out, I think, in 1934. Now, this song, I think, makes some oblique references to the Hayes production code. She sings about how can things go wrong now that skirts are long. Well, if you listen to the lyrics carefully, I think it's quite progressive. This is Elizabeth, vk3sl, testing.
Out of breath, ever since she found skirts must trail upon the ground. She had a better set of legs than even Miss Daggett. Now she's got to hide what was once her joy and pride. This fad of overdressing is depressing, distressing, and catching men grows harder. Their ardor's not so strong. My friend Elizabeth's tired of life and prays for death. How can she go wrong now that skirts are long?
Elizabeth from Wonderbar. That's on an old Broadcast 12 record from 1933-34. All right, we are slowly warming up, thawing out, as they say, and what else? We've got another... I like to pull out a selection of records at the beginning of the week and sample them on the afternoon missions and then see what might be deemed suitable. One of them actually really jumped out at me this week. It's a recording of the new Mayfair Orchestra, the Novelty Orchestra. And it's a really lively account of the tune Nola. So I reckon it deserves a play, an extra play. And it's got a fantastic sort of high-octane flute solo and also an accordion solo on it. It really has some momentum, this record. So I reckon we'll give it another go. This is vk3sl Test Missions. I notice I've got a phone message. I'm going to have a listen in a minute. And if you do want to make contact, it's my call sign, vk3sl@hotmail.com. Let's have a listen to the new Mayfair Novelty Orchestra and Nola. Some excellent transients there. Flute playing with attitude. Recording of Nola, made in the mid-1930s, the new Mayfair Dance Orchestra. It's actually the Novelty Dance Orchestra. I think Mr. Noble might have had something to do with that. Anyhow, I had a message from Mr. Fleming. So, hi, John. Thank you for your message. And, yeah, we had some fun with Miles Davis during the week. We played quite a bit of Miles. We started with the Kind of Blue album and heard that last night. We had a sort of background music as we were gearing up for the family festivities, and everyone seemed to like it, which I'm really pleased about. And so, yeah, it was good. And then we heard the doco tonight. So that was the way we did things. And I'm really, it's excellent. It's great ambience. And you know, really, when you think of what came after and what Mr. Davis did for cool jazz, spatial jazz, as they say, it's a remarkable document. It was a scene changer. Yeah, sort of the antithesis of what we're listening to now. But yeah, this is not cool. This late evening session's not cool, I'm afraid to say. Although I have some Bill Evans lined up for a bit later on. So I've just found some of that. That's on the same vogue. So yeah, maybe we'll pay some further homage to the Kind of Blue tradition with some Bill Evans. Okay, well, got another record on the table. I'm enjoying this turntable operating thing. I reckon I could get a job as a turntable operator. That'd be a really good job. I might go and knock on the radio station doors and see if there's a job going. Maybe I could be there setting up the buyers, putting them into queuing up the records. That would be a great job. I'd much rather do that. That'd be fun. All right, well, what do we have? Another discovery during the week. You can see that I really haven't been thinking much about the program. I'm sort of picking up on what we have done, and yeah, it's just revamping actually. But it's sort of good in a way because the afternoon sessions do provide that opportunity. I know what works and what doesn't, but this record definitely does work because we had a number of Benny Goodman selections this week, and they are all amazing. And this one's with the trio, just with Goodman and Gene Krupa and Teddy Wilson, I presume. I think that's the trio. And it's Nobody's Sweetheart. So let's have a listen. vk3sl, testing. What a great rendering of that song. Benny Goodman and his trio. And we're playing original source material to air using vintage equipment here. That's the name of the game. Testing on 160 metres and also 2 metres, the late night missions. And a reminder that in around about half an hour, I'll be opening up the Zoom channel and I'm looking forward to having a chat with Frank. I've got to send him a link and sort things out. We'll get organised for that very soon. All right. Someone's put up a test pressing of McKinney's Cotton Pickers this week. An unissued take, in fact. And I'm keen to have a listen. Well, I did have a listen, but I'm keen to play it again. It's pretty impressive, actually, and a very interesting arrangement. Now, there's a bit of a debate as to who the arranger is. I think consensus is that it's John Nesbitt, but the anthologies say it's a Don Redman arrangement, so a bit of a question there, but whatever it is, it's pretty extraordinary. So, yeah, let's have a listen. It's called Put It There, Shag Nasty. Interesting title for a song. It doesn't leave a lot to the imagination, but I'll let people draw their own conclusions. vk3sl testing. There we go. Put It There. Shag Nasty. Sounds very painful. McKinney's Cotton Pickers and an arrangement, presumably John Nesbitt. There we go. Some pretty hot playing and interesting. I've just been climbing on top of the piano, reaching for that inaccessible pile of transcription records because I thought it might be nice to play another one of those Mal and Ginger records. There's another one up there. So I had to reach up. And yes, Jamie, I will make that list. In fact, that's a reminder. Next week, we're going to dial up Jamie, and every month or so we'll have Jamie as a guest sharing his remarkable collection, and it's a bit of an OTR journey. So that's something to look forward to next time. So Jamie, you'll get an email from me during the week, and we'll see what we can sort out. All right, so let me see. Is this channel open? I haven't used the buyer for a few days. I'm doing this in a really authentic fashion. I've got an old Autophon A cartridge, and I think this is a centre start. I'm not sure. So we'll try that. Anyhow, we'll just put in the groove, reaching over as I go. And, oh, yes, there we go. Let's see if this, oh no, is that right? I think so. We'll try it again. In, oh, they had an anti-skate. vk3sl, testing.
Yet it's just as important for reasons of health for you to spend lots of time chewing your food as it is for you to spend lots of time sleeping. Yes, everyone spends too little time chewing food, partly because we're all in such a tearing hurry, and partly because today's foods don't need much chewing. They're soft, too well cooked, and that's the reason why so many people have a poor digestion. Well, if your digestion bothers you, there are two things you should do. Make a point of chewing your food more thoroughly, and finish off every meal with Wrigley's full-flavored juicy fruit. You see, chewing stimulates the flow of saliva, which aids digestion. That's why we say Wrigley's aids digestion. So if your digestion bothers you, decide right here and now to eat more foods which require active mastication. Tougher steaks, chunky, crusty wholemeal bread, and more raw fruits and vegetables. And make a point of finishing off every meal with Wrigley's healthful juicy fruit. When you do that, it's a pleasure to aid your digestion. You get a whole handful of Wrigley's for sixpence. For digestion-aiding juicy fruit is only a penny a packet everywhere. And now, here come Malberco and Ginger.
Now, I just have to hear that again. That is a remarkable Freudian slip from Mr. Dear, Terry Dear. Oh dear, that is very naughty. Let's have a listen again. Listen to what poor old Mr. Dear says here. He gets out of it very well, actually. He draws absolutely no attention. It's not even except for a hesitation. He just gets on with the job. But let's have another... Oh, this needle keeps slipping off. It's quite a reach over to get to the centre start, but let's hear it again. Amazing. Terry Dear.
You spend 1/3 of your life sleeping. How long do you spend chewing your food? Well, don't bother with pencils and paper. The answer is too little. Yet it's just as important for reasons of health for you to spend lots of time chewing your food as it is for you to spend lots of time sleeping. Yes, everyone spends too little time chewing food, partly because we're all in such a tearing hurry, and partly because today's foods don't need much chewing. They're soft, too well cooked, and that's the reason why so many people have a poor digestion. Well, if your digestion bothers you, there are two things you should do. Make a point of chewing your food more thoroughly, and finish off every meal with Wrigley's full-flavored juicy fruit. You see, chewing stimulates the flow of saliva, which aids digestion. That's why we say Wrigley's aids digestion. So if your digestion bothers you, decide right here and now to eat more foods which require active mastication. Tougher steaks, chunky, crusty wholemeal bread, and more raw fruits and vegetables. And make a point of finishing off every meal with Wrigley's healthful juicy fruit. When you do that, it's a pleasure to aid your digestion. You get a whole handful of Wrigley's for sixpence. For digestion-aiding juicy fruit is only a penny a packet everywhere. And now, here come Malberco and Ginger.
Excuse me for not starting off saying hello, can you hear me? But I've got some very important news for Mal.
News for me?
Yeah.
What is it?
Mal, believe it or not, I found out what a man can do when he's gone bald.
You have? Good, what is it?
Keep his hat on. No, am I a wag? Oh, am I a wag? Fair dinkum, aren't I a little trimmer?
You seem in a very good mood tonight, Ginge.
Oh, and why not? I've just been examined by a very pretty nurse.
Have you?
A redhead she were. With a gorgeous figure.
Nice, eh?
Oh, sorry. Oh, and those curves. They went in and they went out and they went in and they went out and then they forgot to go in again.
But Ginger, why did you have to be examined by a nurse? You're perfect.
Yes, I know. That's what I wanted her to find out.
Ginger.
And how's the barrage balloon this evening?
Meaning just what?
You, my little bladder of lard. Finally, Terry, I do believe you're slimmer.
Do you really, Ginge? That's nice.
You better watch out for yourself, kid.
Listen, to hear you talk, anyone would think I was really fat.
Oh, no, you're not fat. Not at all. Not much.
Listen, I weighed myself today, and what do you think was the result?
The scales returned your penny.
No, nothing of the sort.
Well, they asked you for extra tuppence.
No. I weighed myself, and I found I was just 11 stone.
You weighed what?
Just 11 stone.
Yeah, well, next time stand with both feet on the scale. Then you'll get the right result. You know, Terry, You'll never get slim while you eat as much as you do. That's your trouble.
What do you mean, Ginger? Is Terry a big eater?
I'll say. I've eaten with the cow. And the things he does embarrass me, really. Fair dinkum they do.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, the other day we walked into a
Cafe.
Oh, yes, you were there.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we walked into a cafe and sat down at the table.
Table.
It was a bit
I
of
was
a
still
bench.
there.
Well, a waiter asked Terry what he wanted, and he said soup for 7 on one plate.
Ginger, you know that's not true.
Ooh, how can you stand there and deny it? How can you?
Ginger, you know the fact is really that I have a small appetite.
You got a small what?
A small appetite.
Oh, you do. You never stop eating. Trouble with you is that your stomach's got no memory.
Ginger, you shouldn't say things like that.
Well, it's true. Only last snitched I saw him sitting down to the most enormous, terrific, gigantic, immense, dirtiest big steak that you ever saw in all your life.
It was a big steak.
Well, if it had been any bigger, he could have milked it.
Ginger, I'm not as bad as all that. Well, I will admit that I'm very fond of pork.
Pork, eh?
Favourite of mine, yeah.
Oh, fancy that. That's a coincidence, that is.
What do you mean?
Coincidence.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I had some prize pigs that the only 2 police sell for a ridiculous figure.
Yeah? What would you call a ridiculous figure, Gin?
You look in the mirror and you'll find out.
Ginger, cut that out.
Honestly though, Terry, I'll sell these pigs for a quid each. Imagine that. 1 pig for a quid. Or if you like to take 4, you can have them for a £5.
Well, thanks very much, but I think that 1 will be enough, thanks, Gin.
Well, I've got some photos of the pigs here.
Really?
Yes, take a screw. Take a look and pick out the one you want to buy. There, see?
Now, let me have a look, then. No, this isn't a very happy-looking pig here.
What?
This isn't a very happy-looking pig over here, see?
Let me see. I'm sorry, my mistake. That's a picture of me brother Dopey. Now, there's the pigs on the left.
Oh, I
right?
see.
Yeah.
Yes, well, don't like that one.
Well, how about this one over in the other corner? That's the corker.
No, don't like the look of that one at all.
Well, how about this other one? One of the bestest pigs on the farm, that is.
No, sorry, that one doesn't appeal to me either, Gin.
Doesn't appeal.
No.
Mummy, do you want a pig to eat or just someone to keep you company?
Listen, I'll tell you what. I'll do. We'll talk it over after the broadcast, and will you join me in a cup of tea then?
Well, you get in first and we'll see how much room is left.
No, Ginger, I think Terry's very good-natured to take all those insults.
That's right.
That's what's the matter with you, Baldy?
That's right, start on me now.
I've got a good mind to tell the world what made you bald.
Yeah, worrying over you.
Nothing of the sort. You went bald because your wife knits all your singlets.
Just what do you mean?
Well, I said, she makes them too small. You went bald through pulling them over your head.
Listen, you're quite wrong, Ginger. As a matter of fact, I wear silk singlets.
Oh, Mr. Burkhardt. I bet you have pink ribbons in your Milanese panties.
Ginger, that'll do.
All right, let's stop arguing, eh?
Arguing.
Next Saturday is a holiday for the 3 of us. What do we do?
What do we do? And now, let's...
So we muck around?
Oh, let's think. What do we do? Let's think.
Let's think. No, I want to do something you boys can join in.
Well, what say we go hiking?
Hiking? Not on your life. Cut that out. I've been hiking with you before and never again.
Why, what happened, Jim?
I was never so embraced in all my life.
Doesn't sound right.
Huh?
That doesn't sound right to me.
Oh,
You went hiking with Mal and you were never so embraced in all your life.
The things he did to embrace me, you've got no idea.
Embarrass you, that's what you want to say.
I was never so much that way either in my life.
Well, tell us all about it, Jim.
Well, in front of all these nice people?
Go on,
What do you
Ginger,
think?
they can take it. Tell us.
Mommy, you didn't think I wasn't going to, did you?
That's a fair idea. Go on, tell us what happened.
Well, it happened way back in the Middle Ages. Way back in 1935, I think it was. Yes, it was 1935. Because 1936 was leap year, and Good Friday fell on a Saturday that year. Yeah, that's right.
Ginger, what are you talking about?
I'm only stalling till I find me place on the script.
Well, here it is.
There. Ah, there it is.
Now get on with it.
Now, I Mel and I decided to go hiking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that time, Mel was going with a girl named Effie. And she wasn't his regular girlfriend, not his steady, but just a little bit of sugar that he was trying to do a line with, you see?
All right, Ginger, she was a girl he knew.
Yeah, but not very well. And she knew him even less. Otherwise, she'd have never agreed to go hiking with him.
Listen, Ginger, you better be careful what you're saying.
I know, Mrs. Serco's listening in. But I'll go easy, Mel. I'll break it down.
Listen, now,
Look, he's going all over red and beetroot. Blushing.
I'm not blushing.
You are too. You're blushing right through to the roots of your hair. And believe me, that's a lot of blush.
All right, Ginger, get on with your story.
Okay, obnoxious.
Listen, we can't stay here all night.
Well, I haven't got anywhere to go until 11:30.
What will you get on with the story?
Well, Mel and Effie and me, we went hiking.
Ginger, pardon me, that's wrong. It's Mal and Effie and I went hiking.
Don't be a drip. We didn't even know you in those days. You weren't there at all.
Ginger,
Just say yes,
will you
just
please
say.
keep quiet? I was referring to your grammar.
You leave her out of this. She's never been hiking in her life. She had her own methods of catching a husband.
Oh, dear, I'm sorry I started this. Go on.
Well, Mel and Effie and me went hiking. Mel packed our bathing suits and some cigarettes and 3 bottles of lunch. And off we went. And we went to
Sassafras.
Eh?
Sassafras.
That's what I said. Frassafass. Yeah.
You didn't. You said Sassafras.
I said Frassafass. Mommy, you got me muddled up now.
Listen, you went to Sassafras.
It was Fern Tree Gully. I don't mind telling you, I felt a bit of a duel that day.
Why, Jim?
Having to play strawberry to Mel and Effie.
Strawberry?
Yeah, play strawberry.
Plain gooseberry.
Blimey, those jam labels are always getting mixed up.
Did you mean you had to play gooseberry to Mal and Effie? Didn't you have a girlfriend at the time?
I did, but she couldn't go with us that day.
Oh, it was too bad. Why not?
Well, after I borrowed my return fare from her, she had no money to pay for her own, so she couldn't come with us.
All right. Let's hear the rest of the story.
Well, after we walked about 20,000 miles,
How far?
2,000 miles,
How far?
about a mile and a half,
That's right.
it was a very hot day. And we drank all the lunch, and when we came to a big dam, we decided to go in for a swim.
Ah, for a swim. I was lucky you brought your bathing costumes with you, wasn't it?
Yes, well, Effie got into hers and was in the water a long while before Mel was ready. I didn't know it at the time, but I realised now he was folding up his pretty pink panties.
Ginger.
Anyhow, he finally got into his togs and he walked out to the bank of the dam. Effie was in the water. Mel tried to show off a bit too. He took a header into the water and swam around a bit underneath the water. And then he bobbed up right beside Effie. What do you think she did?
I haven't got the faintest idea, Ginger. What did she do?
She took one look at his bald head and yelled, "Mel Velcro, go back and put your gown on." Oh, dear me. I spend 1/3 of my life sleeping in bed.
I know, and another third daydreaming on your feet.
Oh, you're insulating, that's what you are. I won't stay here another minute. No, Mel, I can stop.
You can't take it, huh? Trouble with you. Well, however much time we spend sleeping, this much is certain. We don't spend enough time chewing our food. Most modern foods are too soft and too well cooked. Easy to eat, but not easy enough to digest. However, if you desire to eat more chewy foods, to spend more time chewing during every meal, and to enjoy Wrigley's full-flavored juicy fruit after every meal, you'll be giving your digestion every chance to return to normal.
Can I do a bit?
All right, Ginger, yes.
Because chewing stimulates the flow of the saliva, which aids your digestion.
That's
full
right,
stop.
Ginger. Wrigley's healthful juicy fruit is only a penny a packet everywhere. So always...
Guess what? Take your change in Wrigley's, okay?
PK.
Fruity juice, spearmint, and listen, Mel, are you coming to the party tonight?
No, not tonight.
Why not?
Before you go, you better put your new shirt on. And stick it in, too.
What do you mean? This is me working shirt.
Working?
Keeps working up me back all the time. Now, I went into a shop today to get a newie, but I couldn't get served. The store was so crowded the floor walkers were walking on the counters. About time you did a bit of shopping, son. Look at that suit.
I don't see anything wrong with this suit. It fits like a glove.
A boxing glove.
Anyway,
What are you
Ginger,
laughing at?
well, I think it's about time you bought some new underwear, don't you?
Why?
Well, I saw it last washing day.
You saw what where?
I saw your underwear jumping around on the line.
Ah, that was me athletic singlet.
You've just been listening to some active mastication from Ginger, Marilyn Ginger, recorded on an old ARC transcription record. And we'll give them the gong. There we go. Right, well, Frank, I'll send you a link in the next couple of minutes. And before doing that, I reckon we'll hear some Bill Evans. This follows on from our sort of... our little modern jazz journey that we've had in the last couple of days. I've been particularly just wrapped in Mr. Evans playing, and I've listened to a couple of things, but this one really took my attention. It goes for a bit. It's a bit of a sort of a journey into all sorts of weird and wonderful places, and he just has such a beautiful use of space. It's amazing stuff. So, for the next 15 minutes, we'll have a listen to Bill Evans, and in that time, we'll hopefully sort out our Zoom arrangements. vk3sl testing on 160 metres and also on 2 metres. Okay, I think we'll let this drum solo usher in Frank. I notice that Frank's up on Zoom. So I think we're ready to go. And I'm wondering if you can hear me, Frank. I'll just check your
Oh, Steve.
Yes, good. How are you going?
I'm going very well, thank you.
Excellent.
Let me just turn the radio down.
No problems at all. Yes, this Bill Evans track goes on. It's one of these tracks that goes into many weird and wonderful places. And
yeah,
very
it's beautiful. It
rhapsodic.
reminds me a bit of somebody much younger, Keith Jarrett.
Okay, right. I don't know much about Keith Jarrett.
He's worth looking at, but
yeah,
he wanders around like this and does long
big long
solos
rhapsodic tracks.
I get the feeling with solos like that the performer doesn't really know himself or herself where it's going until it happens, you know?
I get that sense as well. It's very improvisatory. In fact, listening to that Kind of Blue documentary today, you really get a sense of how they really wanted to capture the moment, didn't they? The first take, that sense of immediacy. They really wanted that to be, that was their objective.
That is the essence of jazz, as far as I'm concerned. I think the commentator said that, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was just a magic thing.
Yeah.
It very often doesn't work so well.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter.
That's right. That's it. It's very forgiving in that way because it's more about the means than the ends, isn't it? By nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Getting there's more than half the fun, really, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
But that's marvellous, Bill Evans. I haven't heard that track at all.
Okay.
It's obviously a live performance.
Yeah, it is.
Was it at the Village Vanguard or something like that?
I'm not sure. It says at the Nadia Mold Jazz Festival, Norway, in 1980.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
And the bass player was I think it was Scott Letharo.
Okay, it says Mark Johnson. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Oh, right. Well, no, that's not Scott. Scott Letharo was his bassist until he was killed in a car accident.
Oh, how terrible.
And he was a young, very, very promising bass player.
Oh, right.
But that's not obviously, I don't know. I think he might have taken over from Scott.
Sure.
It was a wonderful solo that he was doing.
Yeah.
Doing double stopping there on the bass.
I know. Complex. It was interesting.
Yeah.
It had dimension to it for sure. And knowing how difficult the bass is to play, it's all the more remarkable to hear people just transcend the instrument's technique. Yeah.
But you're really embracing modern jazz.
Well, I'm keen to sort of explore. I've known Kind of Blue forever. I've had that album for a very long time, and I know those tracks. But I sort of feel that it's about time that I embraced it more holistically and incorporate different sessions into the missions. And of course the afternoon sessions, I listen to them while I'm doing other things, and it's an education. I sort of choose things I want to learn from. So it's the good thing about it, really. It's just a shared learning experience. It's like listening to music. It's always better if you know that you imagine someone else is listening with you.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's I bought Kind of Blue on vinyl in the 60s, of course.
Right.
And one day, well, it got left out in the sun.
Oh, no.
It went for a warp.
It went for a warp. No. They would have had some bad vibrato then.
Oh, very bad vibrato and bad jumping.
Yes.
So someone suggested to me, and it was useless the way it was.
Yeah.
So someone suggested to you, get your mother's iron out.
Oh, no. Okay.
Sheets of paper on each side of it.
Okay.
And put the iron on it.
Yeah.
And just slightly heat the iron.
I see. I haven't heard of this remedy.
It didn't really work. It made it a bit better. At least it was playable after I did that. But it was pretty useless.
Okay.
And then, of course, I got a CD when they came out. But,
yeah, sure. Yeah, oh, that's funny. Ironing the vinyl. Yes. I know that.
the vinyl.
There's all sorts of remedies for warped records. I know people put them under glass, and 78s can get warped. And as we all know, and one way is to find two sheets of glass and put it out in the sun because they become very pliable in the sun. And I think they're easier to recover than vinyl. I think once vinyl's misshapen, it's very hard to do much with it, really. But,
it had this big warp. It's terrible.
Oh, no. And it would have been probably one of your favourite records too.
Oh, it was. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Look, I loved the doco on it.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
I love Kind of Blue, but I just wonder quite why it's reached the stellar sort of status that it has.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's not a lot better than many other jazz albums.
Yeah.
But I'm possibly missing something. But
I don't know if you are.
It's
probably a time and place thing, isn't it? I think a lot of it's sort of social conditioning as well. I think it's
a lot of it is.
Yeah,
you know,
the mythology often
it's very
happens
much
that way, doesn't it? It's not necessarily. I mean, the content's important and it was remarkable, but I think this probably happened at the right time and place, and it just perfectly fitted a niche in the popular imagination. People were yearning for something.
Oh yeah.
And then
I think so.
Yeah.
And look, it was an experiment that worked better than anyone would have imagined.
Yeah.
All of that, and Miles was pretty amazing, and the piano playing was incredible. Everyone was incredible on it.
Yeah.
But there are many other jazz albums which to me are, as good or almost as good.
Yeah.
So I don't quite give it that sort of standout stellar rap, but that's not to discredit it. It's a marvelous album.
Of course, yeah. Interesting. I think it's an interesting point. I think it's things do create their own mythologies, don't they? And they sort of assume an iconic status. And we love to have a best. Something that is recognised as being the best. Whether it is or not, it's sort of becomes part of the mythology, doesn't it? I think you're right. Absolutely, it does. I think people just they need to sort of categorise things. They need to create hierarchies, even if there's a lot of other things. And there's probably as many great albums and groundbreaking albums that perhaps didn't get the same status just by luck, just by osmosis, or just by the way that things travelled and developed. Yeah,
Miles is a most interesting character.
Yeah.
Do you know much about him?
I don't know a lot about him. I heard there was a really interesting interview about his involvement in the film Dingo at the very end of his life. And that was on the music show. And I think it was the music show. It was one of those Radio National programs.
Yeah, very likely.
It was interesting. It was fascinating to hear about him, and apparently he was fantastic to work with, and he had lots of ideas, and he was he did. Yeah, he was the perfect choice for that film. But I haven't seen the film, and it would be good to sort of get a fuller understanding by seeing it as well. So that's on the bucket list of things to see. But But tell me more about Miles Davis.
After his modern jazz phase, if you like, he really was essentially a modern jazz musician. But then he left that and went into a sort of a form of rock and roll.
Oh, okay. Sort of fusion
in the
styles.
60s and 70s. Yes, sort of fusion, but more rocky than fusion.
Okay.
There's plenty of it on YouTube.
Sure. I'll have to have a listen. I didn't know that. I only sort of associated him with that cool spacious jazz.
And those of us who love his jazz feel that he kind of deserted the ship, and it would have been much better to stay doing what he was doing.
Sure.
But because what he did later is to a lot of us less appealing.
Okay.
But
is it sort of busy and complex, or did he maintain his sort of spacious style?
It's pretty busy, but it's more raw and basic.
Okay. Sure, I think there was sort of
to me it lacks the finesse and the subtlety and the delicacy that he gets.
Yeah. Yes.
And another remarkable thing about him was that he was a pretty strong heroin addict, and decided that he would kick the habit, and he went to his father's house, so the story goes, and locked himself away in there for 5 days.
Right.
Went through hell.
God.
And came out and never had it again.
How extraordinary. What a will. What a determination. That shows what sort of strength of character he had. He must have been able to be really strong convictions. Amazing. That's quite remarkable. Yeah, okay. I didn't know about those other background issues. I just associate him generically with that sort of late 50s, early 60s modern jazz movement. And, and he was a student of Dizzy Gillespie, wasn't he? Wasn't he a part of that entourage?
To get to the cool jazz stage, he really went through a pretty strong bebop thing, and that's where he worked with Charlie Parker, and he worked with, of course, Diz. Dizzy was his idol and teacher, I think, largely.
Okay, sure. Okay, yeah, it's interesting. Oh well, I'm keen to explore more. How about the stuff he did in his later years? Did he go back to cool jazz again in his later years?
Not that I know of. I don't think so. I think he stuck with experimenting, doing different things.
Yeah.
He may have had. I think he may have had some interest in fusion, as you mentioned.
Sure.
But I'm really not too familiar. What I did hear didn't greatly appeal to me, and seemed to be a bit of a shame that he had when he got onto such a good thing and was doing it so well,
Sure.
to sort of to in the eyes of a lot of us go off the rails a bit, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. It's interesting. They're really interesting observations. They do speak on that documentary. They spoke about his restlessness. He was just forever restless, always looking for new ways and new ways forward, new pathways and things. I suppose rock and roll was the new big kid on the block, and people wanted to find different ways to connect with it. Maybe, I don't know. It's interesting though, isn't it?
It's interesting to listen to. I must hear more of it myself. I've tended to sort of dismiss it and not give it proper.
Yeah, well, I'll see. I'll have a listen to a few during the week and see if I can pick something just to illustrate. And it'd be good to do. So that's a good idea. Yeah, there's another really good documentary on kind of blue that I had on CD here. It was on ABC Radio in the 90s, and I dubbed it, and I just burnt it to a CD, and I can't find it now, but I'll see if I can find it during the week, because that could be good to hear as well. And it was a locally produced thing. And it was done really, really well. It had really high production values. I was hoping to pair it with, that's what I was hoping to play the other night, but I couldn't find the CD.
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it'd be good. So there's a few tangents to riff on there. Yeah. Good.
It's certainly a wonderful album.
Okay, well, that's most excellent. Mr. Collier's been doing a few things, and
good.
Henry,
what's he up to?
Henry sent me one. This is only a few days ago. Oh. Yeah, it is. He's doing some what's it called? Reharmatron challenge. The pentatonic reharmatron challenge, it's called. So it's quite short, and it's less than a minute long. But I'm not quite sure the background to this. But I think he was given some. He's given some sort of template, and he's done something remarkable with the harmonies. So it's all about sort of finding a vertical language. And so look, let's have a listen to this. I haven't heard it. It's only 40 seconds long. It's short, but he's playing drums, and I think this is just him playing drums and also the piano here. So it's called Jacob Collier does the pentatonic reharmatron challenge is the name of the track, and vk3sl testing. And we'll just cue this up. I might have to just go back to the beginning of the track.
Yeah. Here we go.
Okay, that's all there is. So wow. So that was a interesting journey.
It's a 5-note melody, sort of with all sorts of amazing harmonies.
With all these permutations, yes. It was going all over the place. It flashed on the screen the chords he was going through, and it was incredible. He was using, he was changing the chord every half.
Yeah.
Every beat, really.
He was.
And it was him playing the drums as well, so he's obviously, doing amazing things with the rhythm side of it as well. But, that's just a little exercise. I think it must be a part of a series. I'm going to explore that further and find out. But it's just an example of his experimenting. He puts up a lot of his experiments and his sort of meanderings online. So,
that's wonderful. To see what he's doing.
It is. It's interesting, and just the whole sort of harmonic language, the way they gravitate through. I went to an interesting lecture I went to it was a lecture. It was a Zoom lecture by one of my colleagues, someone I went to uni with. And it was a couple of people I went to uni with, and they were talking about both cellists and both with good successful careers, unlike
Yes.
me. And but they've had no. Well, they've done well, and they deserve to because they've worked really hard. And but they did. They had interesting things to say. One of them was, well, part of the discussion was on creative intonation, and looked at different intonation schemes. Looked at Pythagorean intonation and just intonation, and even temperament. And it sort of it was quite close in concept to the sort of discussion we were having last week when we were talking about the use of and how you can use intonation in a very expressive way, and how and one of them's one of the cellists in the Melbourne Symphony, and he was talking about how it's a constant discussion point as to how they structure their intonation schemes, and conductors have their own ideas, but orchestras also build their identity on particular concepts of intonation, particularly woodwinds, and and I thought that was an interesting sort of thought, that sometimes a conductor will come in with their own ideas, but it's not necessarily reconcilable with the sound an orchestra develops themselves. So I thought,
I suppose that inevitably you get tension sometimes.
I think so. I gathered that. So it was interesting to hear that sort of outlined. But so intonation, it's just an endless question, because our ears are so sensitive to different harmonic schemes in different ways. And but I looked at one of the people talking was a Baroque specialist as well, and she was talking about how the just intonation scheme is used a lot in early music. And the Pythagorean system is more as the basis for expressive intonation, with the raised thirds and the raised sevenths. So so it's good to sort of have a few tangible, extra ways of identifying with it. Yeah, but and quite a few examples. But interesting one. But
most interesting.
But I think naturally people equate a major third with a major third is such a sort of I don't know, as an interval, it's a positive interval. It's a very sort of, and I think you can have different levels of outreach with a major third, and if you really sharpen it, it can sound quite sort of out there, and bold, or sort of more. Out there's a good way. It's a hard one to describe.
It's more aggressive, isn't it?
It is, and raised sevenths is a similar thing, and because there's an aspirational seventh, because I think seventh is always going to want to resolve to the tonic, so you can sort of you can stretch the seventh, but I certainly hear that in a lot of these older players. But it's good that it's sort of brought up as a discussion point in these chats. So I was quite invigorated by that. I thought it was good. Yay! Anyhow, so that's
very interesting.
That's my news for the week. Yeah.
That discussion reminds me a bit of Lenny Bernstein's theory about having in chords a major third clashing with a minor third. Yeah. In the same chord, being a sort of an unconscious or a subconscious attempt to play something in between them. Yeah, sure. Like a bluesy sort of. I suppose it is. Well, there's obviously a massive clash, so your ear, I suppose, can gravitate to one or the other. You do it in different octaves. Yes, right. You have to be octave displaced. But and then the ear finds its place, I suppose, depending on what. Yeah, I mean, it's done a lot in jazz. Yeah, interesting. Especially when you're trying to get a bluesy, it's a terrific effect. Yeah. Can be. Yeah, for sure. I like, and then it appeals because I think people, when they're with complex harmonies, people want to find, it's like that what we were talking about last week about white noise and and how you sort of hear stuff in the noise. I think with a lot of modern harmonies, people they innately want to they're searching for some sort of resolution or some sort of pathway, and then their ear will connect on one or another level, and they'll it's a part of the the aesthetic, I suppose. It's interesting. It is, and you've just reminded me of something that I wanted to tell you, talking about modern harmonies. Yeah. Remember I think I sent you a link to the Met playing operas. Yes, you did. Absolutely, you did. Apparently, they play a particular one for 24 hours. Okay. And the one that's running now is Lulu by Alvan Berg.
Oh, really? Oh, how about that? I must watch it. Oh, thank you for mentioning that.
I think it'll still be going tomorrow. I must too, because I've never seen it. I've never heard it.
No,
actually.
it'd be good to listen to. It's a strong topic actually at the moment, because we watched Pandora's Box the other day. It's a wonderful film with Louise Brooks. And
you were saying you were going to watch that. How did your family like it?
Yeah, Olivia and I watched it, and Kate watched it, and Beatrice watched some of it too. And look, it was it's an incredible, absolutely extraordinary film. It's a femme fatale, and it's a tragic tale.
Yes, Mrs. Brooks. Yes.
And of course Lulu gets it's a real sort of riches to rags story, and she ends up. She
has a far more violent end than Mrs. Brooks had.
Oh God, yes. Well, in the Pandora's Box, it's the same story. You know, she becomes a client of Jack the Ripper, and it's just this. It's done so well. The movie it's such a beautiful film. The scene where she, it's really interesting because Jack the Ripper at the end, he is so besmitten by her beauty that he throws his knife away, and he throws away his knife, and they liaise, and then he in the embrace he sees a knife on the kitchen table, and he becomes sort of transfixed, and that's the end of it. But all you see of her dying is just all there is just a shadow of her hand falling, and it's so subtle and so well done when you think of the overstated approaches to things now. And it's quite remarkable, and the film's full of. It's a real film noir, you know. It's just all about effects and shadows, and a lot of it. It's the opposite of explicit sort of cinema. Everything's suggested really, rather than or implied, rather than overstated, and that's the beauty of that Weimar Republic cinema. But it's the story. It's the story of Lulu. I think it's the same story as the Alban Berg opera. And it's. That's wonderful, and that must have been one of the last of the silent movies, wasn't it? Yeah, it was very late. They made two. She made two that year, but her life mirrored the Lulu story. She was a very independent spirit and a very, very natural actress.
She was.
Yeah, and then she went back to Hollywood. She just couldn't stand the scene, and she. And they wouldn't have her back. They didn't like her, and she was driven to prostitution herself. It's so sad.
Was she really?
Yeah.
The doco was very revealing. I caught most of the doco.
Did you? Oh, of course, I played it during the week, didn't I? Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable story.
As the commentator said, she embodied more than anyone else he'd ever heard of. She embodied hedonism.
Yeah, definitely. She sort of had a natural, I suppose, sexuality. It was just, but it was not sort of. It's just a certain demeanour, her poise, and that was, and she just carried that in every scene. She was magnetic, absolutely magnetic. So incredible actress, but it's nothing contrived. It's just a natural sense of place and deportment. And incredible, one of the most natural actresses I've ever seen. And but it's not. One thing they did mention in that doco is that she was, as a child, she was an abuse victim. So she there's another sort of tragic side to that. So maybe that sort of alluring character was psychologically complex, perhaps.
Some sort of defence, or
yes, it could be, because
that.
she was incredibly promiscuous, and she had a sustained affair with Chaplin at one point, and she was very young. But look, it's a remarkable story. But the great thing was that she was discovered at the end by people who wanted to remember her. She only made about 10 films, and out of those, I think only half of them survived. Most of them are lost. But the two great films she made in Germany do survive, and the film historians were seeking her out, looking for her in the 50s, and they did find her, and then they basically helped her reinvent herself, and she became a writer. She was very
Yes.
she was an incredibly intelligent woman, and she was
Yes.
such a gifted writer, and she wrote many articles, and that's what she did right up until the mid-1980s. So she
Yes, I heard that she'd had this resurgence.
Yeah.
And in the docket, and there are a couple of very revealing interviews with her.
yeah, incredibly
And
articulate.
you could tell there that she was amazingly articulate
Oh, yeah.
and very self-analytical.
Yeah.
She understood exactly what was going on, and
She did.
cooperated with it to
Absolutely.
the extent that she wanted to. you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely, Frank. She did. She was acutely aware. She was understood the motives of G.W. Pabst, the guy who directed her in those German films, and every director she worked with, she understood exactly the psychology of their approach, and she was very. She had an incredibly strong. What's the word? She just had that global perspective of things. And she was not impulsive in that sense. She was very measured. So look, it's an interesting story. I commend it if anyone's interested. There's a lot. In fact, all the existing footage of Louise Brooks is all on YouTube, and it's all out of copyright. It's freely available in high res, a lot of it. And we're going to watch Diary of a Lost Girl this weekend. That's the other film she made with G.W. Pabst.
Okay.
And it's another masterpiece. Beautiful film noir. It's just magnificent cinema. It's just so great. And so, yeah, I commend them thoroughly. I mean, and even the early stuff she made in Hollywood, not much of it survives, but she just stands out. She's just completely just so natural in her shoes. There's nothing. Yeah. I mean, I think there was a lot of melodrama, and that early pantomime acting was very overstated, and for the reason of without words, you had to convey everything through gesture, and often the gestures were sort of were
overdone.
Well, they were, and that's a part of its beauty as well. Is that I love that pantomime sort of that theatre. Anyhow, I think it's wonderful. But somehow she was restrained, but not. She just held herself really naturally. I don't think she ever had any schooling. I think it was more just. I don't know. I think she came from a movement background, a dancing background, and her sense of her own body was through dance. So the way that she just held herself was sort of something that came through in her acting. So and anyhow, it's an interesting topic. It's been great to watch some of those. So
yes,
indeed. Anyhow, well, your choice. Oh wow,
yes.
I know that this is probably your favourite work, the B minor Mass.
Just about.
Yeah, I mean, you've spoken about it many times, and I can understand why. It's just music of the ages, really.
I can't think of music that I like that means more to me than that. Really.
Yeah. It's really special. It's magnificent. I was trying to get some background on it, and it looks like there's not a lot of evidence of it being performed in Bach's lifetime, and the score.
No.
I think it may have not even been used. It's sort of a work that I think he sort of wrote it as a bit of a job interview at Leipzig to try and get a promotion, and which is sort of, when you look at something that's so sacred and so masterful, to think that it may have been initially to sort of, I don't know, to get some advantage, or at least get recognised. But I don't think it doesn't take away from its intrinsic qualities. It's amazing.
Well, he would certainly, apart from that, he would have wholeheartedly meant all of it and believed it, and done whatever he could to build into it that sort of spiritual quality, if you like.
Definitely, yes. It's so reverential in every sense of the word. Every utterance, every gesture in that work is just something that's so utterly reverential. But it also is interesting that possibly by writing it, that was his homage to his religion, and the fact that whether it was performed or not was less consequential. You know what I mean?
I think that's possibly right. At least he would have been partially satisfied with having done it. Yeah. Even if it wasn't, but although you can imagine there'd be some frustration to go to all that trouble to write one of the great masterpieces of all time and not get it performed.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
But even for somebody who, like like I am, who doesn't really believe in the spiritual aspect, it is still amazingly uplifting music.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. I think a lot of Bach's music, you don't have to be religious to feel fulfilled by listening to it at all. It's
right, absolutely,
and it touches me very deeply. So look for the Kyrie. And I know that you particularly like the Richter version, and I had to listen to that. And it's
it's
wonderful.
slow. Did you like that?
I loved it. I thought it was wonderful, and that's probably the most celebrated performance, or the most celebrated interpretation of the Bach B minor Mass. And
yes,
but I thought, look, there's a couple of interesting sort of versions. I've got a particular favourite myself, which is that recording that George Enescu conducted with the BBC Orchestra and the Boyd Neal Orchestra in 1951. And
let's play that.
Yeah, and I think that's really special in the same sort of way. It uses similar tempos to the Richter version, but there's something about that reverential quality I sense in the way that Enescu applied himself to his craft in every sense. All his recordings, all his solo work is just the simplest, smallest piece is played as if it's it's as if it's something of profound consequence. There's never a diminishing of respect for the music itself, and you always hear that in Enescu. There's that he just revered all music, and then you get a sense with this that the musicians revere the conductor reveres the music, and there's this beautiful, timeless quality to it. It just has this epic, otherworldly sort of feel. And so I think we'll have a listen. And there's been a remastering of it, which is nice to hear. And this is different to it was the same performance, but someone's been able to get access to the original tapes, and it's a much cleaner recording. So this is good, which is really good. So let's have a listen. We'll have a listen to the whole Kyrie Eleison. It goes for about 11 minutes, and it's the opening of Bach's B minor Mass, and it's with the BBC chorus and the Boyd Neal Orchestra with George Enescu conducting.
Oh, Boyd Neal, yes, that's great.
Yeah. vk3sl testing on 160 and 2 meters. You've just heard the Kyrie Eleison from Bach's Mass in B minor, recording with George Enescu conducting the BBC chorus and the Bourneel Orchestra, recording made in 1951.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it
Doesn't get much better than that.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It's just heart-wrenchingly beautiful in every
It is.
sense, and I just love the way that there's the sustained line in a lot of the passage work. The strings are sort of slightly behind the beat, so it just gives that sense
Yes.
of weight and groundedness. And he does that so magically. It just sort of has a real resignation to gravity.
It just sounds so natural, doesn't it?
It does. So, and it's so. You hear the singers that they. I don't know. There's something lofty about that performance. And
Yeah, there is.
yeah, and that moment where it goes into the major key in the middle, and it's like a sunrise. It's magnificent.
It is. It is.
Just for a bit, for a while, and then it just becomes again sort of quiet, introspective, and very inward looking. And it's the nature of the piece. But
That's it.
I just think the tempo is perfect. I love it.
Yes, see, I love it, and that's what I guess one of the things that gives it the advantage over the more modern performances, that they have gone inevitably, they as they do with everything else Baroque, they play it faster.
Yeah, it's often the case.
I think they're losing the some of the gravitas of it and the dignity and the.
I think that can happen. It can certainly happen with the faster tempos and with smaller forces too. It's often. I know Joshua Rifkin made a recording of this, and I was going to put it on the list. Yeah, and he just did it with a single voice per part. And
it's interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I should I'll have to dig it up, but it just has a completely different feel. And so there are many ways of identifying with the work. But I
enjoy hearing the Rifkin once because it let me hear very clearly the notes of each part.
Yeah, it'd be very transparent, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That's the word, transparent. It was very, and to do that at least once, just as far as I'm concerned, it gave me a bit of more of an in-depth insight into the actual mechanism of the music, if you like.
Yeah, I can understand that. I'll look it up. Rifkin, Joshua Rifkin. He was a jazz pianist too, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah.
He was a sort of a Joplin expert, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think he was. Yeah, he was an unusual character.
Yes. I'm doing a search on him now, and it comes up with lots of Scott Joplin. So B minor mass. We'll have a listen to a bit of it. Anyhow, just out of contrast, I am interested to check in with this because this is a very, very different take on the same piece. Now, what I can do is I'll just now put this on the main computer. I've got this rather convoluted system where I can, if I want to look up something, I look it up on the iPad and it goes into my history list, and then I just dial it up on the on the computer rather than sort of, because the way things are set up, it's not that accessible with there's no room for a keyboard, so that's the way I do it. Yeah. Now let's have a listen. Whoops, just jumping the gun there. What I might do is I'll just fade in a little bit. I'll come in about a little way in. And let's have a listen to this. So the idea here is he's reduced everything to just one voice per part and very small ensemble. And see, I wonder what the listeners think about the transparency. there we go. That was a recording of Joshua Rifkin and his ensemble. I made about 30 years ago. And, well, it's like a different work, really, isn't it?
Different work, but I'm actually, even though I didn't like it anything like as much as the other one, I'm glad somebody did that.
I think I agree with you. Yeah, I think so. There's a lot revealed. There's a lot to be gained from hearing. I think you just listen to it with a different set of expectations, and that takes a life of its own. And there is that sense of the transparency allows a lot of the inner voices to you hear the way they dialogue, and
Exactly.
and the particularly the writing for the ensemble as well. You can hear that there's a background. So it does reveal a lot about the music itself, and it's interesting. There was some sort of trills, and I was wondering, you certainly wouldn't get the choir to be trilling like that, but I suppose that's just a way to sort of
40 voices all trilling.
That could be interesting, but nevertheless, I think it's something to do with sustaining the line or some ornamentation purpose, but interesting. The only thing
there's another version which is sort of in between the two.
Yeah,
made by a group called the 16.
Oh, okay. Right.
Do you know of the 16?
I don't know of the 16, no. I know of Vosh's 8, but I don't know of the 16.
Yeah, no, it's along the same lines.
Okay.
It's a group, obviously, of 16 performers conducted by a guy called Harry Christophers.
Okay.
And and you get four people per voice.
Okay. Harry Christophers. 16.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
That's 16.
I'll look out for them because it's good. It is good to hear these things. I like to listen with an open mind, and although it wouldn't be my first port of call if I was wanting to sort of be moved by the work, sometimes it's good just to hear things with a different different philosophy, different aesthetic. And that was beautifully played. It was magnificent, really, in its own way. And
in its own way.
I think the thing lacks most for me is the drama in the piece.
Oh,
it just needs the force, and the magnitude for dramatic purpose. But look, that's obviously that limitation is understood by the conductor, and they can't. They're not trying to create that. So. No. Yeah, it's interesting. There's another version that really took my attention, and that's one by another Romanian composer, Sergei Celibidache, who's a conductor I really admire. And he made a recording of it as well, and in the 70s, late 60s, I think 68 or 69, something around about that time. And it features Barbara Bonney and quite a few others. But
does it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's been recently remastered. And I'm quite fascinated by this because he seems to. Celibidache was renowned for, his understanding of musical architecture, and he was able to really bring about extraordinary clarity through in orchestral texture. And you hear this here. You hear this. It's a different type of clarity from what we've just learned what we've just heard, because we've got a bigger ensemble, of course.
Sure.
But you do hear this. The music breathes, and it's got a sort of a gentleness. Hasn't got that sort of epic, reverential. Just there's something otherworldly about the Richter and the Ionescu and some of those other performances, like we just heard.
Yeah,
this is different. It's beautiful in its own way, but it has got space and it does breathe. And so I'm keen to see what you think of this version. And
please.
I had listened to it before, and I thought, wow, this is so beautiful. So look, I'll jump in a little way in, because obviously we haven't got all the time in the world. And it's nice to hear it finish. So I'll just do a fade in. So this is a remastering of this recording made with the München Philharmonic and Choir in 1968 with Sergei Celibidache. vk3sl testing. That was the Kyrie from the Mass in B minor by Bach. We heard a version with Chello Badaki and the München Philharmonic and chorus.
Very, very nice.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It's a slightly different way to get to the heart of it, isn't it? It's,
I think so.
Would you say
Very much so. More reflective, and it hasn't got that slight restlessness that the other versions have. There's a certain, I don't know, there's a yearning or something.
Yeah, I think it is a yearning, really. I think it's a yearning sort of, as you say, not unsettledness exactly, but a restlessness,
Yeah, I think so. And in this version, it was much sort of more quiet and just reflective.
At peace, wasn't it?
Yeah, very much so, yeah. So just completely different interpretation and very transparent. You hear a lot of the orchestral voices coming through. And,
they got the balance really, really right.
I think
Absolutely.
so. I think the balance was outstanding.
That's the slowest I've ever heard it played by a long way.
It is, yes, very much so. Chello Badaki was renowned for playing music at unbelievably slow tempos. But apparently...
Again, that's in keeping with the reflective idea, isn't it?
It is. I think he allows the music to breathe, and that's his philosophy, is to allow the textures to shine through and the dialogue of internal voices and things. But it
took me about 8 bars to get used to it.
Yeah, yes. Likewise, too. When I first heard it, I thought, this is interesting. And then it grew on me. But it's music for different occasions. I'll have to listen to the rest of the work and sort of get a feel, because apparently in some places he takes things incredibly fast. And so he's a bit of an enigma, Chello Badaki, but... a remarkable conductor and a very fascinating take on the work. So,
great stuff.
Wonderful choice.
Terrific.
Wonderful choice. I think that's just
wonderful choice of versions on your part.
Well, it's wonderful. It's great that we can just sort of access these things on spec, isn't it?
It's superb.
The time we were watching the movie, I had my headphones on and I was just quickly looking up and that looks good. This looks good. So it's nice to discover new things. But I'll certainly look up that other version of the 16s. And Harry Christensen.
It's 16, just 16.
Yeah.
It's well worth listening to.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I think it's doing the same sort of thing that Rifkin does.
Okay.
Except that I think it's slightly more success. It's got more. It keeps the transparency, but has a little bit more clout, if you like.
Yeah. I think you get, when voices meld, there's I don't know. Having a bit of body to the sound makes a difference, particularly in choral works. I can understand in operatic repertoire when you have a quartet or a duo or whatever. There's that's anyhow. That's okay. It's good to hear.
I mean, it was written for a choir, so you can't. And Bach kind of knew what he was doing, didn't he?
I think so. I think he certainly did. But that's great. I was thinking before when we were talking about these really dignified performers and how that type of reverential treatment, even for simple Baroque pieces. I was thinking last week we finished up with the Ionescu playing the Handel Sonata. There's another recording of Ionescu playing a Baroque piece, a small Baroque piece, a little piece by Largo by Pugnani. And it's such a simple piece. It's just a lot of people would treat it as a sort of a frivolous thing, really. And he treats this with the dignity that same dignity that he treated the B minor mass. So I thought I'd share this with you. See what you think.
Yes, please.
And it's a remarkable performance of Ionescu in 1929 with this Largo by Pugnani. It's so beautifully played. Yes, the Pugnani Lago Espressivo, and that was recorded.
It's charming.
Yes, yes,
Charming.
it is charming. It's so beautiful. It's so simple in its utterance, and there's no hyper intensity. It's no manic qualities, which often people imbue to carry a piece or to characterise a piece. It's just something that's naturally felt. It's a little bit like Louise Brooks's acting.
Yeah.
It's just
Yes.
natural. It's just
Yes.
it just sort of comes from deep within, I think. And
Yeah, just let the music speak for itself. I think
it does. It does in a really
It's
yeah. So that's an example.
certainly
of that.
not frivolous. It's far from being frivolous.
Just noble and dignified. So yeah, there we go. That's a example. I seek out
Thank
string
you.
players who have that sort of that humbleness in their performance. I think
Yeah.
it's a very endearing
Yeah.
quality, and it's a rare quality to hear it without any taint of vulgarity or any taint of hysterics or
Show off.
yeah,
Show issues,
exactly.
yeah.
Any of those qualities. It's a deeply, naturally felt, humble experience. There's another recording. I mean, there's many, but there's another one that I heard a little while ago, and I just dug it up. He's,
Lovely.
Oh, these are beautiful. This is a cellist called Maurice Maréchal, French cellist, and you don't hear him very often.
Yes.
He's been gone for a long time. It's a product of the
don't know.
earlier days, but like Enescu,
Yes.
he sort of a product of that Franco-Belgian school. So there's a lot of control over vibrato speed, and that uses that expressively. And here's a little piece called Plainter, and I think it's by, I can't remember the name of the composer. It's a French composer, Baroque composer, but it's not played
Okay.
in the Baroque way. But there's another piece which again has that same quiet, dignified, lots of and humility, I suppose. Let's have a
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah. Good.
Cello playing of Maurice Marshall, recorded in the 1920s. A work called Plainte.
Yeah,
Plainte.
lovely.
Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
It is lovely.
Yeah, there's something beautiful and
I got
spacious.
to thinking about simple tunes, like that have their own, I don't know, force and majesty.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of I think a lot of hymn tunes are like that.
Yes, they are. Absolutely, they are. I agree with you, and they certainly do have that sort of their own. It's simplicity and it's celebrating the beautiful intrinsic qualities of a simple tune, and but I found that completely compelling. I'm in every moment. When something like that's played, time completely stands still.
Yes.
I feel as though I'm in the texture. I'm immersed. I feel like I'm playing it because it's just.
Yeah, there you are. Well, that's right. Well, I guess you have played it.
Well, I don't think I have, but I do feel like it's that sense of being connected with the music. The performer draws you in a way that it invites you into the music. Really, it's not standing off. I think that's the beauty of some of these players is that there's a sense of. I don't know. It's not just sharing or not just promoting or presenting a piece. There is a sort of an invitation of sorts. So anyhow, that's one way of looking at things. But
well, that's wonderful.
It's nice music. He was a really interesting character, Maurice Marshall. He was in the First World War, and they made a cello out of gun boxes for him, so he could practice in the trenches.
Oh my God!
And there's these amazing photographs of him sitting in the trench with bodies all around him and bombs going off, practicing his cello, made out of a crate. It's in his army uniform, and his little clipped French moustache, and he's sitting there practicing away, and there's explosions going on, and extraordinary stuff.
What concentration!
Yeah, absolutely. So that was his way of dealing with the horrors of war. Was to have his instrument, but
that's amazing.
It is. It's incredible.
What happened to him?
He lived a good age.
Survived?
Yeah, he lived until the 1950s or early 60s, I think. I've got a recording of him playing the Brahms Sonata in the 50s after he retired, and he's still in really good form. He still had great control over his vibrato speed, which is that's the remarkable skill of these Franco-Belgian players, and that's a big part of the expressive palette is differentiated vibrato. And he still had that skill, and he still projected a beautiful sound. And I know the person who's got his cello who bought it from the family. He lives in Brisbane.
Oh.
Yeah, Marcus Stocker has the Marshall cello. I think it's a Lupo or something. It's not a Strat. But it's got a particular nasal quality, and it's very French. And there's a great recording of Marshall. I will play it on one of the missions of him. It's a wonderful recording of him playing the Lalo Concerto. And
I don't know that.
Oh, it's a beautiful cello concerto. I did that for my final presentation at uni. I had to play it with the Conservatorium Orchestra, so I know the Lalo very well. And that was But there's a recording of Marshall in the 1920s playing that, and that's white hot. It's amazing. He just imbues such character to that piece. It's great. Yeah. So there we go.
Well, that was a real experience. Thank you for that.
No, it's fine. It's good to listen to these players. They need an airing. We need missions for great forgotten musicians. Yes, so that's the plan. Anyhow. So what's the latest with your pursuits? Have you had any further developments with your studio arrangements? And
not too much. It's sort of coming together. We're doing bits and pieces. Yeah. I've still got to buy these adapter plug things.
Sure.
I'm not quite sure how to. I'll get them sent to me.
Okay.
I think that's the way to go.
I think that's the easiest way to do it, really. And I think I've noticed that Australia Post have dropped off sending letters every day in view of the uptake in parcel postage. So
parcels, they've got the priority now, haven't they?
It seems to be, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it's sort of sad, really, that there was something special about letters and
I know.
communication
I know.
by snail mail and handwritten letters. There's something special. But
There's a whole body of, I was going to say learning. It's not learning. I've thought about the consequences of people tending to write emails rather than letters.
Yeah.
Written letters in mainly around the fact the ease with which you can do an email and the spontaneity of an email, which can be both good and bad, as we all well know.
Yeah, that's right.
And quite often is bad because it's written without thought or without much thought.
Yeah.
And regretted sometimes later.
Yes.
I know
Yes, I know what you're saying. Yes, I understand. Yeah.
And to sit down and write with a pen or something like that, or as I used to do with a typewriter.
Yeah.
You've got to. It's more of a considered action.
Yeah.
And very often you didn't do it soon after something happened that gave you the idea of doing it.
Yeah. So emails are very
you revised it.
Impulsive.
The impulsiveness is a lot less prominent.
Yes.
Which is probably a good thing.
Sure. No, look, I understand that.
I had a rule in my when I used to write a lot of emails that unless there was something particularly time crucial, if I felt strongly about something, I always sat on it for a day. And I wrote some very strong emails that I'd never sent, and was always usually glad that I hadn't sent them.
Sure. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, in being sort of circumspect, and just allowing things. I think that's a symptom of our times that people are quite impulsive, and is that knee-jerk reaction to a lot of things. And our media sort of invite it, really, don't they? It's the
it's the whole instant gratification and instant everything.
It is absolutely in every sense of the word. Yeah.
And then the other thing that happens, I think, as a result of the instantaneous sort of culture, is that people are losing the art of writing good prose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To a degree.
Sure. Yeah, I can appreciate that.
Because part of having time to think is that it lets you actually think about the words rather than just trying to, in the fewest possible words, get an idea across.
Yeah.
And often, you can write something which you're quite glad you've written in terms of the words if you take your time.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that. Definitely, yes. I think it's becoming a lost art, really, simply because we're expedient all the time. And
it's a shame,
and we don't reflect as much, and I think there's, as you say, there's a lot of regret in. I think people do impulsively respond to a situation, and it can lead to all sorts of complexities that otherwise just wouldn't necessarily have to happen if you just stood back and took a more considered line.
But of course, the big evil of the email culture is that it allows people to do flaming and hate mail and all that sort of thing.
That's right. Yes, what's the troll sort of?
The troll. That's the one.
It's terrible. It's something, and it must be some I don't know. There must be a real psychology, because there's a lot of that, isn't there? A lot of news groups,
huge, especially among young people. It seems to.
It's right. It's a form of bullying, I suppose, and it's bizarre. It's a bizarre phenomenon to think that. Why is it so necessary for people to have to interfere or just act? What's the impulse? Where does it come from?
Yeah.
I don't understand, but there must be something.
I think it comes from an insecurity such that they feel they have to master someone or show that they can control a situation or it's horrible. I mean, one of my kids came up against it at school in not an email sense, but in a person-to-person sense.
Right.
That took a bit of working through.
I can understand. It's bullying, really, isn't it? In every sense.
Certainly is.
Yeah, it's horrible stuff.
It is bullying, totally bullying.
It is, but and I mean, kids cyberbullying is just such a massive problem now with young people, and a lot of kids sort of withdraw. And what we've made a way we've set things up here is that the kids share spaces all the time, so there's not that
that's wonderful.
They're not sort of caught up in a solitary situation with their device, with their phone or iPad.
Oh, and that's great.
And
I
think it's important because it's easy to sort of withdraw and be caught up in your own cyber, or that world, that ether, and with misunderstandings or with manipulations and all of the horrible stuff that can sort of thrive, either through impulsive behaviour or trolling behaviour or bullying of all kinds.
There was a rash of suicides some time ago, wasn't there, around schools?
Absolutely.
It's terrible.
I had a student who threw himself under a train. It's terrible. Terrible things happen. It's just awful.
Yeah.
But but I suppose there will always be.
As you say, it's hard to imagine how they could be so isolated, feel so isolated, but that's what happens.
Yeah. I know.
It's so sad.
It is.
Anyway.
It's terrible. But interesting, isn't it?
How do we get onto that?
It's a relevant. They're interesting conversation points because we do live in a very high. When you listen to this playing, time slows down, or it does for me.
Yeah.
And I really, really value that sort of repose. And this is one of the benefits. Look, I know this is an incredibly complicated time, and in so many ways we're in a very difficult place, and I think some people are in an appallingly difficult place. If you've lost your livelihoods and things, at least I've got a job, and so I pay full respect to the fact that it's really hard for so many people. But having said that as well, I know that just having more time, just at home and just in my own zone, and the very fact that I can do the missions and listen to music and actually have a system to listen more. And other things too, everyone's cooking much more in our household. We're cooking all the time, and we're cooking together. We're doing lots of that. And that's really
wonderful.
Good. It's been really, really good. And every night last night we were playing Rummy by the fire with cards. So there's time for things that just wouldn't happen otherwise. It just simply wouldn't happen because
I used to love to play Rummy as a kid.
Okay, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So So
my mum taught me how to play Rummy. That's a good game.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, that's a bit of fun. So but sitting around, just having time to reflect, I think gives perspective to things.
It absolutely is, and it's so good. And this just sort of brings it home to me how good it is to have a family with a number of kids, as opposed to having, as I was, being an only child.
Sure. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. I think I consider myself to be incredibly fortunate that we've, and the kids seem to get on pretty well. Although we've had obviously
inevitably
we've had a few issues, but I think on the whole they are very close.
Yeah,
and that's probably they've probably become a lot closer in many ways because of the fact that we're not sort of stretched thin and doing lots of extracurricular things and driving around and extending ourselves, so-called extending ourselves. But
and you get evened out. You get sort of you get the sense that you're not all that special and you're not all that bad either.
That's right.
I grew up I was spoiled actually as a kid, and took me a while to get that sort of knocked out of me. But when I went to secondary school, I realised that there were kids smarter than I was.
Okay. Well, look, I think all kids, they're allowed to feel that way. I think it's normal to sort of have those senses,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think you've got things well and truly in perspective.
I think we're okay now.
Yeah, but look, they're important conversation points. I think this time is going to be there's going to be a lot of people reflecting on the way that they've coped or not coped, or how they've managed, and
yes.
And look, there's a huge number of people who just don't have anybody, and they don't. Or imagine being in a dysfunctional family. I mean, it would be the worst thing imaginable. It's just, you know, I mean,
know.
it's insurmountable. Or and
It is.
yeah, or having a disabled child or something. You know,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
could be
all
could be really difficult. Yeah,
It certainly could. But you know, it's so good in a family setting. I mean, we're now having the which you will come to the absolute delights of grandchildren.
right. Yes. Yes, I expect that'll all happen. There'll be another resurgence. Need to bring the booth
Yes,
back into action and do make stories.
It's very, very special.
Yeah.
Anyway, I won't
that's
rabbit
good.
on about that, but it absolutely is, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll love it.
Oh yes, I'm sure it'll all come about in some way, or something will
It will.
happen. I presume it will.
Of course.
Yay! All right. Well, look, I was thinking. I suppose I am a bit tired tonight, so I'm going to give Jamie a call, and we'll see if we can square up another. OTR missions next week, maybe.
Oh, I'm sure he'd be delighted,
so we should,
as we would be to hear his wares.
Absolutely.
Hiya, Jamie. If you hear this, I imagine you will at some point.
Yeah. It'd be great to catch up again, Jamie, if you're around next week. So we'll look towards that. And I thought that in view of our topic tonight, we have played this before, but the last movement, the Agnus Dei with Kathleen Ferrier.
Yes.
I think that would be a lovely way to finish up.
Oh, it'd be superb. Just before you do, you just reminded me of another thing I wanted to tell you, and it's just another contralto.
Yes.
I don't think I've mentioned her to you. I heard her again this week, and it just reminded me.
Sure.
She is called Maureen Forrester.
Oh, really? Maureen Forrester. Okay.
Forrester. She's American.
Sure. Is she still around? Is she still performing?
I don't think so, no. I don't
Was
think so.
there a particular
I heard her.
performance?
No, I don't know. No, she's just general. I heard her on a program on MBS on weekday mornings called... I can't remember what it's called.
That's okay. I've written it down. I'll look her up for sure. I'd be most interested to hear.
Maureen Forrester. I think she's got a lovely voice. It's
excellent.
Not quite Kathleen, but it's up there too.
Sure. Very good. All right. I look forward to listening. I'll listen out for Maureen Forrester. We'll do some searches and see what there is. That'd be really good.
Yes.
Well, we started with the Mass and B minor, the Kyrie, the first movement. Now we'll go to the Agnus Dei, which is almost the last movement. So
lovely. And
we'll hear this timeless performance. Speaking of timeless things and exquisite beauty. we'll hear this. We'll hear this performance, which is got to be heard to be believed. Really, it's something so special, and I think it's a nice way to finish up. It's been a pleasure, Frank.
Always is, Steve. Thank you very much for making it possible, and we will look forward to talk. I'm pretty certain I'll be up on 160 tomorrow morning.
Oh, tremendous! Oh, that's good.
I had an issue last week with my ATU. It got its knickers in a knot, and I had to sort it out. By the time I had it, it was too late.
Okay.
But it's all done now, and I've got everything ready to connect up, and I'll get in there into the shack a bit early.
Fantastic.
To make sure I've got it.
Oh, that'd be
and
good.
See how many people... Yeah.
Oh, look, I look forward to that. I should be right. I'll probably do it again from the garden tomorrow. And one thing I did do this week, I should mention, is that I put together a external VFO. I made up this kit some time ago,
really?
A little DDS VFO, and I had to put a little buffer amplifier in the box because it needs about it really needs about 10 volts peak to peak to run the Marina. But this little amplifier knocks up to about 5, and it sort of worked. And then I blew one of the transistors by mistake, so I think I was drawing a bit too much current. So I got some parts sent to me this week, so I'm keen to sort that out, and that might mean I can come up with 100 watts on 160, but it may be a little while before I can do that, but that's on the cards anyhow. So
I can run 50 with my TS990.
Oh, good.
Yes.
That's excellent.
and that should, well,
Yeah, that should
we'll see how we go.
That should
anyway.
service you really well. But if it's a nice day tomorrow, I'll probably go out with just the little Seacom, which is only 10 watts, and sit under the tree, because I need to get out of this room. I'm just spending all my life in this one room.
I'm sure you do.
And sitting in the garden last week, it was delightful, just sitting in the garden and doing it that way. And weather permitting, I think that would be the choice at this time of the year, anyhow. But
Yes.
Well, that's good. It's good to hear that you're getting organised, and I'll certainly listen out for you tomorrow, and it'd be great.
Well, I was talking to Clint earlier after his missions. And,
yes.
He'll be up. I think he's coming up.
Oh,
as well.
good. Very good. All right. Well, it'll be nice to catch up with Clint. I'm sorry I missed his program. After this, the kids are watching this film, and I fell asleep, and I woke up. I think you heard. I just woke up just before the mission started, and I ran out here. And it was one of you know how it is when you wake up and you don't really know where you are. Or who you are, that sort of existential thing.
I know.
Yeah. So I
I missed some of Clint's missions. I missed as well because Kathy wanted. They were playing the Matthew Passion on the ABC, and Kathy wanted me to hear.
Oh my gosh!
So
Okay, right. Oh,
it didn't take much persuading, but although I was sorry to have missed, I've recorded it anyway, so I'll be able to hear it all.
Oh, it'd be good to hear. Wow. Well, there we go. That's excellent. Thanks, Frank. It's great to chat, and we'll finish off now with Agnus Dei from Bach's B minor Mass with Kathleen Ferrier.
You there?
Yeah, I am there. Yep, all ready to go. All right, thank you again.
I was just saying, we'll absolute pleasure, and thank you. We might as well sign now.
Yeah, definitely sign. We can't talk after this.
So that I can turn off the internet.
Yes.
And just listen on the radio.
It sounds good. All right then, Frank. All the very best. We'll catch you soon. And thank you, listeners. And just a quick word to recommend Chris's missions tomorrow night on Channel D.
Yes, always very good. Always most interesting.
Outstanding, yeah. 147.475. And
you betcha.
So have a good week, everyone, and we'll see you soon. This is vk3sl, clear of the frequency, and we'll sign with good old Kathleen.
VK3JR is clearing also.
Yeah, and let's listen to Kathleen Ferrier. Cheers for now.
Cheers.